नहीं सर का पीपीटी नहीं है। मैम आपके साथ में? अच्छा थैंक यू मैम। एक बार चिराग बाहर अनाउंस। Volunteers, can you please announce outside the APJ 11 that we are going to start with the second plenary session? Yes, volunteers, please announce in the lunch area that we are going to start with the second plenary session by Professor Arvind Kumar. Request all the participants to come here in APJ 11. We request all the participants, conference participants, to please come here. Sir, can we start with the second plenary session? Welcome again to all the participants. Hope you have enjoyed the lunch. Our next plenary session will be taken by Professor Arvind Kumar, Professor Jawaharlal Nehru University. Professor Arvind Kumar is former Dean at Atal Bihari Vajpayee School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has more than 25 years experience in academics and industry. He is a certified entrepreneur educator from Stanford University, USA. He earned his post-graduation and PhD in management. He is the recipient of post-doctoral fellowship in the USA. He has supervised several MPhil and PhD students. He is a keen researcher and his current research interests are CSR, academia-industry interface, consumer affairs, and social entrepreneurship. He has several research papers and articles published in national and international journals of repute. He has several books, monographs, and research projects to his credit. He has participated as an expert in various national, international conferences, workshops, and has been part of various panel discussions and also chaired sessions. We look forward to his insights on sustainable research practices. I request Professor Arvind Kumar, sir, on the dais. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invite. Please give a warm welcome to Professor Arvind Kumar. Sir, you need portable mic?
No, I think that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, madam, for your very generous introduction. And it's very difficult. I was interacting with the convener of this conference. So whenever you are addressing in any conference post-lunch, so it's very, very difficult. So one thing, because if you have a very delicious lunch, so it's quite often कि आपको थोड़ा सा, you might have very, like you could like to have a nap. So it's very difficult to deliver a talk post-lunch. And I also learned that lunch was delayed due to the inaugural. But anyways, I will try. And a few other sessions are also lined up. So challenge for me is interact with the people post-lunch. This is challenge number one. And second, second, because some other sessions are also lined up. So these are the two challenges that I have to face. So I'll begin with congratulating the team BRAIN 2024. I learned that NSUT is organizing international conference, first international conference. So I request everyone present here to give a big round of applause to organizing team of NSUT. So they did a very commendable job inviting. It is truly international conference, inviting people from Gulf, from Canada, from United States of America, and across the country. When you look at the people, when you look at the participants, so it is truly an international conference. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Anand Srivastav ji, Head of the Department, Professor Jyotna Singh ji, Dean, Professor O.P. Thakur ji, Convener, Dr. Dinesh Kumar, and the entire organizing team of BRAIN 2024, and a colleague from NSUT, Department of Management, and colleagues from Delhi and friends from rest of the part of country as well as abroad, and dear students. When I was looking at the kind of theme the organizer had chosen, so it's a very, very contemporary theme that they have chosen. And on top of that, the abbreviation is so impressive. It's called Brain 24. So kudos to the organizer, the kind of conceptual note they have created and the kind of theme they have chosen for this conference. I also gone through the detailed concept notes, so I found they have chosen 9 contemporary themes, 9 themes of the track, various tracks, and every theme was very, very contemporary in nature, be it sustainable finance, be it sustainable entrepreneurship. The very impressive theme they have chosen is DEI. So they also taken care of diversity, equity, and inclusivity. So I found this very, very impressive. Keeping in mind the 2 challenges that I shared with everyone, so I thought I should just give my thought on sustainable development, research, and practice. I also learned that you had a very, very, very meaningful session with Professor Rana, where he talked about how to go about literature review. So what I am for next couple of minutes, what I'm going to focus, I'm going to talk about the whole idea of sustainable development from the research point of view and from the practitioner point of view. So these are the 2 focal areas that I'm going to focus. One is how we can really look at the whole idea of sustainable development from the research point of view. Then we can also focus on from the practitioner point of view. So I will not go into the detail in the sense that what is the conceptual framework, what is the definition, or what are the other thinkers talk about sustainable development. But I would like to give you a little bit theory. So in 1970s, so there was a period where increasing awareness of environmental was one of the important focus. And in 1972, United Nations had a conference where they focused on human environment, then subsequent discussion on sustainable practices. In 1987, there was also titled Our Common Future that formally introduced the concept of sustainable development to the global stage. So these are some Western developments so far the sustainable developments is concerned. I talked about, I gave you some historical perspective, how that emerged in 70s, 72, 87. Then we also had United Nations, those who are from the economics. So they discuss, they do research in length so far the sustainable development goals are concerned. So I will not go into the detail about what SDGs are and what are the research has been done. Those who are interested in SDGs, they can follow the UNDP programs, they can follow various research. I'm also very impressed when I was hearing some of the presentation made by the participant. So very empirical research has been done in the area of sustainable development from various angles. Let me also share with you, like if you look at the basic 3 important component of sustainable development, so environmental sustainability is one of the important area. Second area is social equity. And third important area is economic viability. So in case if really we want to work on sustainable developments goals or SDGs or sustainable development practices, so we cannot ignore, we cannot afford to ignore either environment, social equity, or economic viability. So these are the 3 important fundamentals when it comes to the theoretical frameworks. So we already have theory in place. So one very, very popular theory is triple bottom line, which is popularly known as a TBL. There is also DONT model, and there is a very important theory called the system thinking approach. So this is broadly the basic idea, but I would also like to share how really we were practicing in ancient time the whole idea of sustainable development. So though I have also shared with you the historical perspective of sustainable development starting from 70s, then United Nations came into the picture, then the current research. But I think we should also go back and look into how this whole idea of sustainable development was practiced in ancient India. So we have to see the whole idea of sustainable development from the philosophical lenses. We are the country who thought of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, not confined to ourselves. We were also thinking about the entire planet. जो PPP 3P मॉडल या ट्रिपल बॉटम लाइन की बात करते हैं, so they are also talking about planet, but look at our own philosophy. So long back, India is the one that talked about, that advocate the whole idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Even in contemporary time, I would like to give you one example कि अगर आपके पास फॉर एग्जाम्पल कोई पेन है, तो आप कई बार क्या करते हो, उसको यूज़ करते हो, रीयूज़ करते हो, देन यू आर ऑल्सो यूजिंग फॉर मैनी अदर पर्पजेज़, कि आपने उसको रीफ़िल करा, रीफ़िल करने के बाद अगर वो भी ख़त्म हो गया तो पजामे में जो नाड़े डालने के हैं उन सब में भी काम करते हैं. इसी तरह से आप इफ़ यू लुक एट द गारमेंट्स अपैरल दैट वी आर यूजिंग, सो वी हैव अ डिफरेंट मॉडल ऑफ सस्टेनेबिलिटी ऑफ यूजिंग आर, कि हम कपड़ा ख़राब होने के बाद उसको फेंकते नहीं हैं. द फीमेल द हाउस होल्ड लेडी क्या करते हैं, उनको मल्टीपल यूज़ में, इवन दैट क्लोथ इज ऑल्सो यूज फॉर द मॉपिंग. So we had a very clear example of sustainable development. Though I also shared the whole history about sustainable development from the Western lenses. But look at the philosophy. So we are the country which preached long back the idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. We are the country, we also keeping in mind the environment. We are the country who really worship the trees. So one point in time, if you look at our philosophical angles, so we always concerned about our environment. We are always concerned about our own sustainable development. Now, very briefly, I would also like to give you some few areas for research. So climate change and environment management is one of area where a lot of researcher can focus. They can primarily focus on mitigation and adaptation. They can also focus on sustainable agriculture. Third area is urban sustainability, very, very important area. If you look at those who are into the labor studies, so there is a lot of migration from rural area to semi-urban areas to urban areas. So keeping in mind the migration dimension, so a lot of studies can be done in urban sustainability. Studies in the area examine how cities can reduce their environment impact while improving livability. So some of the area could be sustainable transportation, green building practices, waste management. We are in Delhi, so if you look at from the environment point of view, so one point in time, generally every year in the month of October, Delhi become a gas chamber. So this is also very, very important concern. So young researcher, young mind of this country, I'm sure that through this conference, they will also be ignited to conduct a research. If you look at the figures of AQI, which is also very, very imperative in terms of conducting a research. Why Delhi become a gas chamber, especially in the month of October or November? Generally, COVID, we all witness COVID, we used to keep mask during COVID, but we also see, you can also see a lot of people wearing masks during the month of October and November. So what went wrong with us? Some people say there are a lot of theories when we really discuss about the idea of AQI. Some people said कि पराली जलाते हैं इसकी वजह से हो जाता है. But I think civic behavior also make a very, very important part. Though we are talking about sustainable development, until unless if we don't involve society, if the civic sense is not really taken care, so I don't think it is a good idea that we will blame that sustainable development will take place its own. It won't possible until unless we don't involve civic society for sustainable development. And another important local problem that I want to cite here, if you look at the local transportation, so roads are in pathetic situation, not in terms of quality. When you go, so traffic become a very big problem. And if you look at some concern, I primarily come from the human resource area, so I know that well-being is very, very important. if somebody commute from one point to another point, during the raining season, if you look at, so people are stuck for hours to go from one point to another point. So research has to be done why we are not behaving like a very civilized citizens. So we have to really think. A lot of experiment has been done in Delhi, like odd even was done, but there are still so many research topics, emerging areas. Like, can we really think of pooling the cars? On odd even was partially successful, but not serving the purpose. Can we also think of pooling the cars, pooling the vehicles? Can we have IT folks can come together and think about how one can be informed if I have to go from NSU to JNU? So how within a second or within a minute or within 2 minutes I come to know these are the people available, these are the vehicle available. So somewhere we can reduce the burden of transport in Delhi. So there are a lot of areas, but I can also give you some of the important aspect and few cases where we have done commendable job. So there is a very important model in Germany, which is known as a renewable energy in Germany. Germany energy went. It's a comprehensive strategy aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions and increasing the use of renewable energy sources. Very, very prominent model of renewable energy. Then we also have another example from the Brazil. There is a city called Curitiba in Brazil. It's renowned for its innovative urban planning public transportation system. The city is integrated bus system and is popularly known as a BRT. BRT stands for Bus Rapid Transit. I did my postdoctoral from Ohio State University, US. So I was also using public transport there. So though Delhi government also started DTC app, but even the accuracy level is not so promising. But when I compare from US model of transportation versus our own model of transportation, public transportation, then I felt it was very, very accurate. So India has really to do a lot of studies in terms of accuracy, in terms of their sustainable model. There is also agroecologic in Cuba. So Cuba faced severe food shortage and energy crisis. So in response to, the country opted for agroecological practices, emphasizing organic farming and local food production. So these are the few very, very important example of sustainable development in the area of renewable energy, in the area of urban planning, in the area of agroecology in Cuba. But I'll be fail in case if I don't talk about what government of India has done. So government of India also taken a lot of initiative for renewable energy, solar energy. So for solar energy, we have Bhadla Solar Park in Rajasthan, Reba Ultra Mega Solar Park in Madhya Pradesh. We are also working for wind energy. We also have sustainable agriculture, zero budget natural farming. When we really talk about the sustainable model of farming in our country, so at times cost become a constraint. So a lot of researchers are working for zero budget natural farming concept, where they are reducing dependency on chemical inputs, improving soil health, organic farming, soil health and biodiversity, market access for farmers. We have also initiated a lot of initiatives for rainwater harvesting, rooftop rainwater harvesting program. One of very popular program which is in Chennai. Then Jal Swaraj program is also one of the flagship program of Government of India for water management. We have checks, dam and recharge pits. We also have sustainable urban development. Another important area that I feel like parking in Delhi, parking in an academic institutions like NSUT or JNU is not a big problem. I was also hearing the announcement somebody has wrongly parked the car. Then this is one example of civic sense. I'm not blaming anybody, but I am simply saying but we can also come up with some of the problem solving, some of the research solution. So even lot of fights took place in Delhi just because of the parking. So we have to come up with a very sustainable model of areas like farming. I'm not saying, I'm not undermining that goals has been defined by or areas which has been identified by the UN. So obviously researcher has to come forward to work on these areas, but we really have to take care of our local problems. Our Honorable Prime Minister has invoked the nation for vocal, local for vocal for local, very important area. Though we have to really concern about the global problem, be it climate change, renewable energy, but we have to really think about the local issues and local problems as well. We have, we as a nation has done very commendable job in terms of waste management, Swachh Bharat, construction of toilets, solid waste management, waste to energy projects, and one of the recent is Okhala waste to energy plant in Delhi. I'm also reminded very recent initiative by Honorable Prime Minister of country, Ek Ped Maa Ke Naam. So this I found very impressive initiative by Union Government of India, because even if you look at the future, so generally it has been said, lot of statistics are shared, कि if you look at the number of trees required versus number of trees existed. So Honorable Prime Minister has given a very important call to the nation कि we must have a plant for the name of our own mother and Mother India as well. There are a few challenges from the policy point of view. Policy integration is one important aspect. Second challenge that we face is global inequality. So in case if you look at disparities between developed and developing nations, pose challenges for equitable sustainable development. Addressing these disparities requires international cooperation and support for capacity building in less affluent regions. So those who are serious researcher in the area of sustainable development, climate change, renewable energy, so they might be following up all Paris summit and other summit which are very important concerns. So a lot of policy decisions are taken. Before I make a conclusion, so I really want to cite two examples, very short examples. One is if you go to Africa और if you visit to US, तो वहाँ पर जो इलेक्ट्रिक पोल्स हैं लकड़ी के लगाते हैं. So somebody researcher like you ask to Americans कि आप ये पेड़ क्यों यूज़ कर रहे हैं for the electric poles. तो उन्होंने कहा कि we have affluent of trees. तो उन्होंने कहा कि this is also challenge, researcher has questioned, this is also challenge to the environment. They said कि नहीं हम तो ये अफ्रीका से मंगाते हैं. So look at the kind of mentality they have expressed. They are concerned about their own region, but they are not concerned about how it is imbalancing a contingent like Africa. So this is also very important. And I also look at when you really compare developed nations versus developing nation, our country is developing nation, and Honorable Prime Minister has also given a call for Viksit Bharat. So I strongly believe that even if you look at if you examine very critically the idea of developed nation versus developing nation for climate change or the challenges the world is facing, so I found that developed nations are responsible for it. But on the contrary, if you follow the policy documents, so they are imposing a lot of bans to the developing nations. So I am reminded of one of the Urdu couplet which says, चमन को सींचने में पत्तियां कुछ झड़ गई होंगी, चमन को सींचने में पत्तियां कुछ झड़ गई होंगी, यही इल्ज़ाम मुझ पर लग रहा है बेवफाई का, मगर कलियों को जिसने रौंदा पैरों तले, वही वादा कर रहे हैं चमन की रहनुमाई का. So that is the, thank you. So that is the whole idea about developed nation versus developing nations. So look at the sanctions given by the developed nations. हमारा उतना रोल नहीं है, डेवलपिंग नेशंस ने उतना एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं करा नेचर को, बट ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी इफ यू लुक एट द डेवलप्ड नेशंस, so they have exploited nature like anything. So finally, I would like to conclude, and I promise to the convener that I'll take very less time. So sustainable development is an evolving field that integrates research and practice across environmental, social, and economic dimensions. Theoretical framework provide valuable insights, while real-world application offer practical solutions. Continued research, innovation, and collaborative efforts are essential for addressing the complex challenges of sustainability and ensuring a prosperous future for all. But I have a very strong belief that conference like Brains 2024 will give you a lot of will give you a lot of solution to the challenge faced by the bird. And I wish NSUT will take a lead. Organizing every year, they will keep on organizing international conference on contemporary issues like they have on business research and innovation. And as I have said, that abbreviation is very, very impressive. So you have attracted not only the brains from India, you have you have attracted brains from across the planet. So I wish all the very best, and I hope you will have a lot of solutions from the proceeding of this conference. Thank you very much for inviting me. It was an honor to interact with all of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful session. I now request Dr. Salni to please present letter of appreciation and memento to Professor Arvind Kumar. Thank you, sir. चिराग थर्ड वाला कनेक्ट करते हैं, ठीक है. Thank you, sir, for giving your time to NSUT. Our third plenary session will be taken up by Dr. Kathleen from Budapest Business University, Hungary. She is joining online. She'll be connected with us in next 5 minutes. Her session will take place online. We'll start with her session at 3:15. After that, we have a high tea break, followed by technical session, track 5 and track 6 presentations. Ma'am, am I audible? Ma'am, am I audible to you? But ma'am, we are not able to hear you. एक बार आप ही थोड़ा सा सेटिंग दीजिए. Ma'am, you are not audible to us. Ma'am, actually we are checking the technical settings. बेटा ये लैपटॉप में भी नहीं आ रही है मैम की आवाज़. दिखाना. हाँ मैम की आवाज़ नहीं आ रही है. मैम इज़ नॉट ऑडिबल. हाँ मैम की आवाज़ नहीं आ रही है. मैम इज़ नॉट ऑडिबल. हाँ मैम की आवाज़ नहीं आ रही है. मैम इज़ नॉट ऑडिबल. हाँ मैम की आवाज़ नहीं आ रही है. मैम इज़ नॉट ऑडिबल. हाँ मैम की आवाज़ नहीं आ रही है. मैम इज़ नॉट ऑडिबल.
Can you hear me?
Sir, yes, ma'am. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Wow, great.
Sir,
Absolutely okay.
yes, ma'am. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Wow, great. Absolutely okay.
Yes, ma'am. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Wow, great. Absolutely okay. Can you hear me? Question, may I have one more question? Absolutely okay.
Ma'am, we are going to start.
Can you hear me? Question, may I have one more question?
Absolutely
okay. How much time, exactly how many minutes may I have? Absolutely okay. How much time, exactly how many minutes may I have? Absolutely okay. How much time, exactly how many minutes may I have? Absolutely okay. How much time, exactly how many minutes?
मेरी वॉइस मैम को इसमें से जा रही है, यहाँ से जा रही है.
आप यहाँ से देखें.
तो फिर वही वॉइस यहाँ पे आ रही होगी या तो.
इसका ना इसका स्पीकर ऑफ करना पड़ेगा. ऑडियो माइक्रोफोन है रे. नहीं स्पीकर पे. हाँ ये नहीं, ये इस पे से आएगी. फिर एक सेकंड, अब एक बार कोशिश करते हैं. इस पे से आएगी तो फिर ठीक है ना, माइक की भी. चलो लैपटॉप में से ऐड करते हैं. ठीक है ना,
एक मिनट टेस्ट करो.
माइक की भी. चलो लैपटॉप में
मेरी आवाज़ मैम कैसे जा रही है, आप टेस्ट करो.
चलो लैपटॉप में.
मेरी आवाज़ मैम कैसे जा रही है, आप टेस्ट करो.
चलो लैपटॉप में.
मेरी आवाज़ कैसे जा रही है, आप टेस्ट करो.
चलो लैपटॉप में.
It is visible. And one more point, if I'm going on, then I would like this visible. And one more point, if I'm going on, then I would like this visible. And one more point, if you see a new one going on, then I would like this visible. And one more point, if you see a new one going on, then I would like this visible. And one more point,
Yes, ma'am, you're switching slides. I can see it.
then I would like this visible.
Yes, ma'am, you're switching slides. I can see it.
Then I would like this visible.
Yes, ma'am, you're switching slides. I can see it.
जिस चीज़ की मैम का वो है प्लीनरी सेशन है.
Just give me a starting word.
अभी ठीक आ रही थी जब मैम ने पूछ लिया था.
Starting word.
अभी ठीक आ रही थी जब मैम ने पूछ लिया था.
Starting word.
अभी ठीक आ रही थी जब मैम ने पूछ लिया था.
यहाँ पे आपने माइक से करानी है ना स्पीकर इंटेक होगा
Ma'am, it's there in the chat, you can see.
The chat, okay.
Ma'am, it's there in the chat, you can see.
The chat, okay.
Ma'am, it's there in the chat, you
We are
can
waiting
see.
for, yes, okay. The chat, okay.
Ma'am, it's there in the chat, you
We are
can
waiting
see.
for, yes, okay. The chat, okay.
Ma'am, it's there in the chat,
We
you
are
can see.
waiting for, yes, okay. The chat, okay.
Ma'am, it's there in the chat,
We
you
are
can see.
waiting for, yes, okay. The chat, okay.
Ma'am, it's there in the chat,
We
you
are
can see.
waiting.
हाँ सबका म्यूट है ना म्यूट सबका है लेकिन ये हो नहीं पा रहा है मेरे को 002 में मेरा मॉडरेट होगा एक काम कर अपनी मीटिंग चालू कर जल्दी से
नहीं तो लैपटॉप में आना चाहिए ना इनका लैपटॉप में
आएगा इनका आएगा उनको भगा दो इसको भगा दो खाली करा दो अब ट्राई इसकी मैं इसमें अभी जूम करता हूँ
Thank you so much. Then, so, okay. So, first of all, it is a great honor and pleasure for me to participate at this conference. Absolutely okay? No. Yeah, thank you. I'm really glad. Okay, so then first and foremost, I would like to express again my gratitude for the opportunity to participate at this conference. and to speak about briefly the social aspects and parts of sustainability-related activities and efforts of companies domiciled within the European Union or outside of the European Union. The focus of my presentation is on forced labor and its impact on the company's activity and their duties to address any form of forced labor. So let's have a look at the table of contents. First, in a few words, I would like to point and I would like to explicate the reason, the relevance of the topic. Then shortly an insight into a very complex legislative regulatory regime of the European Union, and then some words about how high are the chances for a judicial process and to get remedies for losses and harms. And finally, we have to look at the new European directive, which is in the pipeline and which will regulate the directors, management, board of directors, and the shareholders' due diligence duties against the so-called short-termism. So, the next slide is about summary of definitions and terms used in case of forced labor. However, we have to put it into the content of ESG, environmental and social and governance criteria of the European Union. And therein, we have to see that the social pillar of this criteria set is based on the European pillar of social rights and the action plan, which is derived from this legislative action. And the social aspect of the company's required behavior and conduct refers first of all to the so-called fair, decent working conditions. There is a European Commission's regulation in this field. Non-discriminative working conditions within all members of supply chains, including the first, the second, or third tiers companies. However, the forced labor and its impact has many other implications and consequences for authorities, member state authorities or European authorities, companies, shareholders, directors, and legislators as well. So, and then at this slide you see the definitions of International Labour Organization, which was adopted by the European Union, and which is used as a legal base for corporate sustainability reporting obligation, which which has already been put into force on January 5th this year, 2024, and affect a broad group of European economic operators and the non-European, that means third country operators, and pursuant to estimations, In the first line, at the very beginning, approximately 50,000 companies, manufacturers, banks, insurance companies, investment banks, traders, and to some extent logistic companies will be affected. So these 50,000 companies must prove to the European Commission and on behalf of the Commission to the incumbent member state authorities that the whole supply chain is free of coerced or extracted work and any form of forced labor. Okay, first, one more point, we have to emphasize that this requirement refers to any stage of the production, so including the harvesting, the extraction, the working process, the assembly or manufacturing or final production. However, I have to point the weakness of the European legislation, notably the scope of the regulation does not imply services such as research and development or IT services or logistic services, although all of them, I mean all these sectors, are burdened by forced labor. Just have a look at the next slide, what we are speaking about, the degree of this phenomena. Then pursuant to the statistics of the International Labour Organization, which the European Union has taken over, we are speaking about approximately 27.6 million people without child labor. But what I would like to underpin is the role of middle, upper, and upper income countries in this situation. They are in the European Union, and it is so painful and shamey for the European Union. However, we have to see the sectors which are the most affected. One more point, please, that approximately 52-53% of all workers and employees who suffered from forced labor can be found within the European Union and Central and United States. So, which are the sectors? First of all, the service sector has the highest share with its presence in forced labor, including, as I've told you, transportation, but there is hospitality and including trade. The second sector, which is highly impacted by different forms of coerced, extracted labor, is the manufacturing, and therein the textile industry. And then we have to mention the construction industry, and last but not least, with 2.1 million persons, the agriculture, where coffee, cocoa, and so on, grain as commodities have been harvested by disgrading or under disgrading working conditions. Okay, so, and then it is very important to know which types of forced labors must be controlled and must be prevented by the companies within the European Union. And in case of companies, third country companies which have affiliated companies, subsidiaries within the European Union. However, I must tell that due to the very, very strict and complex administrative duties, the companies of third countries must comply with the European rules only from 2028. Because the European Commission just made a new decision not to burden, not to hinder the third countries with the special European rules. Okay, so let's have a short and brief overview on the types of forced labor. First of all, the excessive overtime, which is which presents the highest share with more than 50%. Then very low wages, or together with these two injuries and violations of decent working conditions, there are problems that peoples are recruited for another type of work what they actually must have. And then there are other type of injury which frequently transpire in the report is the lack of freedom to leave an employee or to change a workplace. And the last one, which is very, very important, is the hazardous, unsafe working conditions. I have to tell you that the last records about it tells that approximately 2.8 million deaths is attributable to work-related diseases in a year. And this is the first part which shed light on management and directors and company boards liability, and creates a linkage between a poor, weak, or missing safety rules in a facility, or weak workers' protection, and the temptation to maximize the profit. At that point, it is worth of mentioning that the United States had movements and had better results in these fields against the violation of fair and safer working conditions. And the US has already set up a study, and completing the study, a list of goods produced by forced labor. and the Bureau of International Labor Affairs of the United States is responsible for it. And this list comprises 78 countries and 160 goods in 2022. I've just mentioned it because that will be that I think this list and this study set an example for the European Union, and that will be the European Union's next measure in this field. When a management, a board of directors, or executive persons in a company will be strictly obligated to supervise the supply chains of the companies, there are red flags which draw the attention of these persons. So red flags that must be taken very seriously, and the countries where are indicators of a potential forced labor must be examined and must be observed with due diligence. So the due diligence is the crucial word in the European Union's new regulation. And the director's due diligence will be directly and closely connected with their criminal and civil liabilities and penalties, and evidently with their remunerations as well. So, and we have just reached the point. The European Union regulatory or legislative regime, where we must see that this regime is not a brand new one. Certain parts of this framework have already been enforced and have already been implemented by member states, because we are speaking about regulations with direct effects and directives and recommendations where the member states must adopt the rules and must adjust the European rules to their national specialties. Okay, let's see it. So first of all, the so-called European Green Deal must be emphasized and must be put into focus, which creates a basis for the socially just transition. And the socially just transition has a link or leads us to a next point, to a so-called green financing or sustainable financing. The sustainable financing is one of the guarantees of decent working conditions. And it is not only about financing water cleaning, energy efficiency, but it is about financing the distribution, sustainable distribution networks, and financing investments where the labor rights are fully protected. The regulation that must be mentioned in this field is the so-called Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation. And there is a new financing tool. This is the so-called gold standard for the European green bonds, which will be put into force in the following few months. So this legislative framework, and especially the social aspect of it, includes 4 elements. First of all, the employment, which is about civil rights, which is about contractual duties and rights of companies, not only for European economic operators, but for companies, as I've told you, that have already established their affiliated companies within the European Union. At that slide, I would like to mention the role of workers' councils, the role of workers' unions in the decision-making of companies. So the European Union's commitment to collective bargaining, for which the trade unions is one of the most important guarantees. At this slide, I have just recapitulated the international guidelines and principles which appear in all European Union's legislative acts, regulations, directives, and recommendations, and which comprise or consist of principles that are fully respected by the European legislators. And then these are the most important. I have to emphasize that these are the most important rules of the European Union, because there are certain supplementary directives which must be considered, respected in a special case, in a special topic. Within these wide variety and array of directives, I would like to call your kind attention to the so-called corporate sustainability reporting, which is completed by the sustainability due diligence obligations, and the non-financial reporting, which is a pretty old one because it was enacted in 2014, has been already completed and revised by the European sustainability reporting standards using the international standards. The next slide is about procurement. Procurement of goods where the production, the harvest, extraction are likely connected with forced labor. And as a result of the European Union's legislative process, there is an absolutely new proposal for a regulation of the European Parliament, and it is briefly called the ban. The ban, the prohibition, the very strict restriction for importation of products where there is a likelihood or assumption that the product, wholly or partly, were produced with forced labor. The European Parliament already empowered the European Commission to put this new regulation ban into force as soon as possible. This ban, however, is a response, a reaction, or an adaptation of a United States rule, of a United States Act. In this context, we have to see that the European Union is to some extent required or forced to comply with the United States rules. The United States rules is not a new one, but once again it was renewed. It is the Tariff Act from 1930, which was completed by the rules against forced labor, so rules for avoiding, prohibiting the violations in working conditions. And this Tariff Act was linked to the United States Customs Union. It's not absolutely true, but to the Customs Union or Free Trade Agreement of the United States to Canada and Mexico. And therein to a chapter which is called Trade and Sustainable Development. And this chapter includes 4 prohibitions. These 4 prohibitions explicitly requires companies not to import, not to trade with goods which are made by forced labor. And this is the point which impacts the European Union, since the European undertakings, entities, for example, Adidas, Daimler, the French, one of the largest French company, Veon, or the German company Kia, and so on and so on. In the text, I don't want to list all these companies. Have a global network of their suppliers, and they were never obligated to check the process, the manufacturing processes in their contracting suppliers. But one point is clear: products originating in the European Union, but containing parts, component parts produced in unverified suppliers will not. We have to see the roots of the European Union new rules, regulations in the United States respective appropriate acts and codes. Yeah, so just have a look at the ban, which has a special terminology. This terminology emphasizes that, yes, I know, I have only 4 or 5 minutes more. Thank you so much. I beg your pardon? Yeah. So then one important point is that the distance selling, that means the online selling, will not be an exception. Okay. So what about the judicial mechanism of claimant who has suffered losses or physical injuries due to forced labor? The European Parliament made and issued a comprehensive study and has described 4 scenarios. And these 4 scenarios state the direct or indirect connections of directors to the violations. Okay. However, it is not so easy to launch a legal proceedings against European corporations. There are several problems, burdens, and especially the costs and the rules of civil procedure, for example, that the party who has lost the claim must pay the cost of the other party. Okay. All in all, the corporations will be obligated to furnish verified information on their efforts in 4 different fields. But the question is, and the problem is, that how can these data, figures, and informations be compared and analyzed by shareholders or by investors? And the system which serves this aim of standardization is the European Union's sustainability financing reporting system. Once again, just a few words. What is a corporate due diligence? It is a proactive and reactive conduct of managers and suppliers. And they will be demanded by the European Union right away to respect the companies and the community's long-term interest, and not to follow only the short-term financial interest, so the so-called profit maximization of the companies. And this is the new directive, including the Shareholders' Rights Directive and Transparency Directive of the European Union, because shareholders as well will be first encouraged, later a bit pushed to find long-term and green investments. So, and the very last slide is about how to communicate the results and efforts. And as you see, under the social field, there are 4 sub-chapters, and within sub-chapters there are, I have to tell you, 17 sub-chapters, where 17 in the own workforces, 17 sub-chapters or disclosure points, DR, that's the disclosure requirements. So it is so complex that the small and medium-sized enterprises must be well-trained to provide information to the large companies. Otherwise, the large companies will never be able to make comprehensive and reliable report for the authorities and for the public. Thank you so much. I have just listed a few links, and once again, I would like to thank for your kind attention, and I'm ready for answering for your kind questions. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much.